Hi guys, Steven here. Today I want to share with you 5 misconceptions about wisdom. 5 misconceptions about wisdom. Now, before we go deep into any of these concepts, I want to share these conditions with you. Number 1, with all the videos that I upload, I'm trying to add some kind of value to your life. And in all the videos that I've ever uploaded, I think this one is going to add the most value to you. Number 2, I want you to watch this video with an open mind. Don't be that kind of person who shuns out ideas just because you haven't thought about it before. And number 3, I want you to watch this video to the end of it. Misconception number 1 about wisdom is that you can be wise at everything. The reason it's a misconception because no one person, dead or alive, has monopoly of knowledge or monopoly of skill. Why? Because the word wisdom means skill. I think you go a long way in your understanding of wisdom when you think about wisdom in terms of skill. If you tell yourself that I'm wise at something, you have to ask yourself a simple question. Do you have the skills to do the thing? And most likely, in most things, we find ourselves that we don't have the skills to do it. And wisdom means skill, whereas some skills are transferable to other areas. It is very hard to learn every skill of every area, every sector, of every industry in life. Why? Because we don't live long enough to be able to master every skill in life. Most of us live 60, 70, 80 years. And it takes about 5 years to learn a skill. At most, if you're the person that wants to learn every skill in life, you have about, 5 times 6. You got 5 times 8. 80 years divided by 5, and you get the numbers that you could at most learn maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 skills, and that's about it. But then there are dozens of other areas of life or needs, human needs, that needs skill. So in terms of numbers, in terms of lifespan, we don't have the time to be able to learn every other skill. Therefore, it's a misconception to think that you can be wise in everything. So this means wisdom is, because wisdom means skill, wisdom is specific, right? You might be good at sports, but doesn't mean that you'll be good at accounting. You might be good as a farmer, but doesn't mean you'll be a good executive in a corporate company. You might be good in maths, doesn't mean you'll be a good lawyer. Whereas some skills in those industries might be transferable. It's very hard to be fantastic at everything. Usually when we spread ourselves loosely in every industry, like they say, jack of all trades, master of none, we become truly that, master of none. And wisdom is about mastery. It's about mastery of one skill. So if you want to be wise, it's master one skill and focus on that skill and be the best at it and be the best known to do it. And that's how you become wise. You don't become wise by knowing everything. You become wise by being specific about what it is you want to be a master of. Misconception number 2 is that wisdom is eloquence. I think I've mentioned this in my previous video. I put a card up here. You can go watch that video after you finish this one. Wisdom is not eloquence, because eloquence means the ability to communicate in such a way that people understand what you're trying to say. So the skill itself, and I think it's important as you continue to listen to or watch my videos and I speak about wisdom, whether in this video or videos in the future, to always think about wisdom in terms of skill. So the eloquence falls in my mind within the category of skilled communication. So in and of itself is a skill, but it doesn't mean that that person is wise in let's say relationships or wise in farming. They might be able to communicate ideas about farming, but it doesn't mean they have the wisdom to farm, because wisdom is skill, right? So eloquence is not wisdom. Eloquence simply means that you're able to communicate adequately. You're able to convey meaning in such a way that people understand what you're trying to say. You can be very eloquent, but not a very good doer. And wisdom is all about doing, and eloquence is all about communication. Whereas eloquence has its benefits, and don't get me wrong, being eloquent is very important, and it has its significance and effect in terms of it making you relevant and it making you effective. People are willing to listen to you and follow you because you're able to convey your vision and you're able to communicate effectively. Don't get me wrong, eloquence is important, but in and of itself is not wisdom. And the misconception that I've had in my past, I've experienced this myself, is misconstruing people that can communicate effectively as being wise. And I've seen people do that to me as well. They see me communicate effectively and they label me with this wisdom label. And as someone who understands what wisdom is, I go, don't misconstrue my ability to communicate effectively as being wisdom. It just means I'm able to communicate effectively or convey the meaning of what it is I'm talking about very effectively. It doesn't mean that I have the wisdom of that thing. But wisdom is not about talking. Wisdom is about doing. Wisdom is about execution. Wisdom is about application. If you say you're wise in communication, you're a really good communicator. If you say you're wise about relationships, people can come to you and you can fix their relationships. If you're wise about about business, people can come to you and seek consultation from you, and you can turn their business around. If you're wise about life, people can come to you and you can turn their life around. Like, wisdom is about execution. It's about doing. It's not just about talking. That's the point what I'm trying to convey here. So the misconception, again, let me reiterate, is that wisdom is eloquence. In reality, the truth is wisdom is execution. It's doing. Misconception number 3 is that wisdom is spiritual superiority. I cannot begin to tell you, maybe because of the environment that I grew up in, very religious environment, the amount of people that have gone away with a lot of things simply because they've branded themselves to be superior than those that actually listen to them, than those that follow them. So you find a lot of people get away with things. You find a lot of people label others to be wise simply because they've, for some reason or the other, in their minds, they have labeled that person to be more superior than them. So we see this also with brands. Like, you can have a shoe brand, for example. They might claim that, 100% of all their shoe brands or their shoe product is 100% recycled. Whereas in reality, it's actually just 5%. But what they claim, which is the branding bit, is that we are 100% recycled. But in reality, they only have 5% recycled, right? But this branding creates an image of superiority. It creates an image of excellence. It creates an image of there's nobody better than me. There's no person better than us. We are the go-to people. We are the go-to person. I am the go-to person. So therefore, because of that label, people now allocate like, yes, you are the best, but in reality, you're something completely different. So I've seen that people who claim to be wise, they're always associated with spiritual superiority. I've watched a video. I don't want to really, I won't put the video here because I don't want to embarrass the person, but I've watched a video many times on YouTube. I can pull up one where the person said, well, the video was actually about a criticism. They were criticizing somebody else. They're like, man, this person is so, they're literally judging the individual. That person is this and that and this and that. And, I can see all these things because I have wisdom from above, I have the wisdom of God, and I can see through people. I can see who's right and who's wrong, and I can make good judgment. And when I heard that, I closed the video straight away because, I'm like, wait a minute. The only reason you think you're wise because you think you have spiritual superiority from the person that you're judging? Like, is that the metric of wisdom? And you would be surprised at the amount of people that label themselves to be wise simply because they claim some level of spiritual superiority over others. But wisdom is not spiritual superiority. Wisdom is about practicality. Wisdom is about consistency of action. Like, you can be spiritual, right? I like this example that I always give. It's about a seed. You can have a seed and you say, you want to have a forest, or you want to have a mango out of the seed. Let's say it's a mango seed. You can be as spiritual as you want to be. But if you don't plant that seed in good soil and throw that seed on your apartment floor or your house floor, that seed is not going to grow. No matter how spiritual you are, that seed is not going to grow. Why? Because if you want to see the benefits of the seed, if you want to see the fruits of the seed, you need to take action. What is the action? Find good soil. Take the seed, plant the seed, water it, make sure it has good sunlight. It's about action. There's wisdom embedded within the seed that must be obeyed. And that wisdom is always a skill. It's always an ability to do. It's always an action word, right? Again, wisdom means skill. Skill means action. So wisdom is not spiritual superiority. Wisdom is about consistency of action. The person who goes out and acts, the person who goes out and takes action, they don't just say, God is going to bless me with $1 million, or God is going to make me, a successful businessman. But they actually go out there and they learn about business. They learn about accounting. They learn what it is to be an executive. They learn what it is to be a CEO. They actually apply themselves. They try businesses that succeed in one phase or they fail. It doesn't matter. They just apply and apply and apply and apply. And in that application, they learn certain skills that they wouldn't learn simply because you've applied. Because wisdom is skill that you learn as you apply the thing. I think we've talked about it in the last video, and again, go watch that video if you haven't watched it. So you find a lot of people, they want to, be in this zone and receive wisdom, but they don't want to apply, they don't want to do anything. They're not doers of the word. I like this phrase that's in the Bible, be doers of the word and not listeners only. Why? Because wisdom is a doing word. If you meet anybody that claims to be wise and their justification for why they think they're wise is spiritual superiority, is claiming spiritual superiority over you or over others, pack up your stuff and run and walk away. Misconception number 4 is that wisdom is purely mental. It's a mental exercise. It's about information. But in reality, wisdom is, as I said, and is closely related to a point that I've just made, is that wisdom is about execution. Wisdom is about practicality. Wisdom is about applying principles that are embedded within creation, so they're unlikely to fail because they're embedded within creation. The sequence of action of planting the seed and watering the seed and exposing it to appropriate sunlight is the principle within the seed. It's an execution. It's not just knowledge. It's actually practicality, and it's embedded within the thing. It's embedded within the creation itself, within the seed. And in order for you to see the success of that seed, you have to apply the principle of the seed so that you can see what the seed can become. And the same applies with you. Wisdom is not just a mental exercise. So you can read all of the books. You can have the biggest library in your house. You can turn your room into the biggest library. You can turn your entire house into a library. But it doesn't mean you're wise if you don't execute on the thing. Why? If you don't find out the principle on the thing. Why? Because wisdom is a principled thing. I like to say that because it makes me remind myself that wisdom is about finding out what is the sequence of action that must be taken in order to see the fruitfulness of the seed. And everything in life, whatever kind of success you're seeking, there's a sequence of action. There is things that must be done. There are principles that must be obeyed in order for you to be able to flesh out that success that you're seeking. Wisdom is not a mental exercise only. It's not purely mental, whereas you need your conscious mind. You need to have the right information in your mind, but that information in your mind must be translated into action, must be translated from your mind to your hands, must be translated from your mind to your foot, it must be translated from your mind to your mouth. That wisdom must be applied, must be practically implemented so that you can see the fruits of it. It's not just a mental exercise, it's an action exercise. And the last misconception number 5, is that wisdom is for gifted people only. And I think this is important to understand, that it's a misconception, because I think it goes all the way back into history in the times of the Greeks. In those times, people believed that the gods chose certain people and imbued those people with traits that the rest of the population do not have. And because these people were chosen and were imbued with these traits of the gods, the rest of the population, everybody else, the rest of the world ought to be serving these chosen people. Why? Because they were gifted people. And I think it's a misconception. I deeply believe in my heart that every person in this world can choose to be wise. Now, you have to make the choice to be wise, but everybody can be wise. Why? Because everybody can choose to apply themselves in a certain area of life and gain the skills in that area of life and become relevant. Now, there's a video that I've watched on YouTube that totally changed my life. The video is titled The One Man Who Financed America. It's about JP Morgan. And he was so good at finance, he was so good at banking, that when America in those days, in the early 1900s, was in a rut, financial rut, and they were in a depression and the economy totally collapsed, it took one man, wisdom of one man, who applied his entire life into one skill, right? Into one skill. And in a time where his country, America, was in a situation of economic collapse, they called him. Hey, JP Morgan, we need you. When you have the president of a country call you, man, you've got something special, right? When the entire economy of a country rests on your wisdom, rest on your skill, oh man, you've got something special. But listen to this. JP Morgan, he was great in his time, and I do believe that all of us are gifted in something, right? The problem that we have about our gifts is that we compare ourselves to other people. We compare ourselves like, oh, I'm not like this person, I'm not like that person. And because if you compare yourself so much, you end up jeopardizing yourself. You never come to find out who you are, because you're constantly trying to find out who you are through the negative lens of comparing yourself to others and how good others are. You will never be 100%. You will never get the results that somebody else gets being 100%. You're performing at a 50%, trying to get a results of somebody who is at 100% being themselves. So when you find out who you are and rely on yourself, look within and look at the world from your inner lens, then you'll begin to see your innate abilities, your innate skills, and your innate hobbies and your innate desires come into fruition. And as you delve yourself into those things that you genuinely like, your greatest wisdom will come forth as you apply yourself in those skills. And I hope that you've learned something from this video. Please comment below and do let me know if you've picked up anything, if you've learned something. If you even disagree, please do let me know, because I do value your feedback to me, because it helps me improve and it helps me serve you much better. Please subscribe, please like, and please share it with your social media network. Till next video, have a good time.